Having successfully found Lake Vrynwy, we rode across the dam. It's a lovely autumnal day, as you can see. Unfortunately though, the road's not particularly dry, and that's a bit of a disappointment, but hey ho, this time of the year that's only to be expected. One of the issues with autumn riding, of course, is you can't rely on the weather. What you can rely on is falling leaves, and they tend to be really slimy and horrible, and I don't like them. So when you're riding around by the lake, you've got a combination of muck coming from the forestry, you've got the falling leaves, you've got general detritus, and obviously if there's bad weather as well, it's not too great. But we made reasonable progress until we got held up by some vehicles. We weren't going fast, but nevertheless we were significantly quicker than others. How can I put this? That splodge in the beginning of the old, in the middle rather, of the camera is a bit disappointing. However, it's the only camera I had on at the time, and I didn't really want to lose the footage to show what the road surfaces were like or the fantastic colours that we saw. Otherwise I would have just scrapped it completely. We later went on to a different camera that made things a bit different, so bear with me for a bit, and things should improve in the visual side. But hopefully you're enjoying the views. We've got the lake to the right, forestry all the way to the left, and the car holding us up. I've edited out a bit of toing and froing between Dave and myself. We had a suspected problem with the BMW, but it was just a minor issue, and we got that sorted. Well, I say we got it sorted, Dave got it sorted really. So we're now going to start climbing up Bwlch y Gross. It's a lovely climb up from Lake Vrynwy up to the Gross, and I think I've covered most of it on the video. At this moment we're still running on the our GoPro on the right hand side of the helmet, but hopefully it will give you an interesting comparison when I swap over to the Senna, so you can see the quality of picture and the amount of stabilisation that you don't get on the Senna. I had complained in a previous video about my disappointment with the way the Senna was working, and I was getting really frustrated with it. What you can find is that, this is going to be a really weird one to explain, the Senna, when you download, will download a couple of files. If you actually then use the wrong file, you get a really grainy image. It's really not very good. If you get the right file, for some reason the resolution seems a lot higher. I don't understand whether it does that deliberately or it's just a problem, but it's certainly an issue I've got, and I have to get really careful. And also it seems a little bit more stable using that higher resolution as well. I do have an ability on my computer to actually upgrade that and produce a more stable image. However, it tends to really be a little bit, how can I put this, messy in the way that it does it. It's not entirely as convincing. Going back to what we're looking at, you can see how the road surface here is quite filthy, and I was quite surprised at really just how well the tyres were performing. Now you've got to remember, I've ridden an hour down to Porthmadog, met Dave, we've then gone down across to Bwlch, down to the lane, across the trail to the lake, we've done the dam, we've left up the lake, and now we're climbing. It's been basically constant riding. The bike was really comfortable, nice position, I wasn't achy, which, considering my problems I've got with my shoulders, my arms, and my back and my neck, I was quite pleased, and well, I was actually relieved that I wasn't in too much pain. So that was good. the bike soft suspension certainly gave my back an easy time. What I would say is that I did notice by the time I got home that my coccyx was playing up. It's an issue I've had for quite some years, and it gets really sort of quite pins and needly in the back with the lower spine. So I've had it for years. It's not something I've really noticed as being a problem, and certainly on the bike this is probably one of the best bikes I've had as regards not causing that. Dave's Funduro had a bit of an issue with some fueling. He's been messing around with it for over quite a while now, and I think he's basically got it sorted. Very interestingly, for a single, a lot of people won't realise that those bikes actually had 2 carburettors. So it's an unusual design, 2 carbs for 1 cylinder. Seems to work really quite well though, and it's just a matter, I think Dave's bike might have been used so lightly, it might have had something like a sticking float needle or something like that. But yeah, once we got it sorted, it was going nicely. As you can see, we're climbing. It's quite a long climb up from the village. Now here we pulled over because you can't see it in the picture, but there was a large group of vans that came up, a load of V-dubs, obviously on a tour. Now as you can see, we've swapped over camera. As soon as we left them and we'd let them pass, we swapped over cameras, so you hopefully can see the difference. We were really lucky in choosing that day because other than that, very little traffic. It was surprising. It was a nice day. It was a weekend. I tend to try and avoid riding weekends around here because you tend to get a lot of accidents and a lot of people riding Snowdonia or driving. They come up, they finish the working week, and they try and have a bit of a jolly, and nothing wrong with that. However, you've got busier roads, so we try and make the best of what we've got. And being so lucky to live up here, if we've got a weekday, we can go out and we'll try and do that instead. However, this was a Saturday. It was a time that we were both free, and yeah, as you can see, wide open spaces, absolutely amazing. One of the interesting observations I made from the day's ride was how economical the CRF seems to be. So we were travelling national speed limits for most of the journey. Obviously on some of the tighter roads like this, we're not going to be going that fast, but where possible we were making progress. And the CRF on its LCD display has got a little notification of what you're doing to the gallon, and mine at the end of the trip was still recording something like 92 to the gallon. So it wasn't wasting fuel. We were able to travel at reasonable pace, and one of the things I really enjoyed was, despite having the restricted revs, it felt really nice and torquey. So when I wanted to get a bit up, have a bit of get up and go, getting confused there, my tongue doesn't want to work. When I wanted a bit of get up and go, the bike certainly didn't disappoint. Now, we all would like a little bit more, and I have to admit that in my own vain way, I really would have liked, you know, something like about a 40, 50, 60, 70 or more brake horsepower, so I could really rip. But in all seriousness, that wouldn't have been a very good benefit. You know, the bike itself was perfectly adequate for what we were using it for. Coming down this way, the view is to die for. Absolutely amazing. The camera really does not give it justice. It's absolutely stunning. Generally, I tend to have to ride up this hill. This time I was riding down, and honestly, I was blown away. It's such a stunning scenery round here. I can see why people travel from all over the country and indeed from other countries to enjoy it, and we are really spoilt. What was really good, of course, is that, as you can see, we weren't really sharing it with many road users. So yeah, spoilt we really were. Good weather, good company, good bikes. It was turning out to be a great day all round. Sadly, though, I've edited it out because I don't think it's very nice to put it in. We did have a bit of an issue down here. Unfortunately, we came across a sheep that got its head stuck in the wire fence that you can see going down on the left hand side. And Dave, while I struggled to turn round because of an issue I'll raise in a minute, managed to release said sheep by literally cutting it free. It was a shame, really, poor thing, but there. It's one of the advantages of being in the countryside. Dave saves the day yet again. So why did I have a trouble? Well, put simply, I have moaned about it before and it's highlighted it today really badly. The bike's got an 880 seat height, which once I jump aboard is fine, but getting on and off the thing is proving to be quite considerable irritation. So much so that actually I didn't in the end get off the bike until I finished the entire trip. No, actually that's a lie. I did get off the bike a couple of times towards the end, but it was something I didn't do by just hopping off. It was just a bit of a nuisance. You see, when you're sitting on it, the bike is relatively low, but because of the soft nature of the suspension, you end up, as you start to get off, getting your seat rising by several inches, which then makes getting off harder than you think it's going to be, and it would be easy to get a bit tangled up. And with me, with my advancing years and stiff joints, it wasn't great. And by the end of the day, I have to say, I took the decision that I think we're going to be fitting a lowering link to the back and then trying to drop the forks a bit through the front to match it, to keep the geometry. It's a shame because I'm really happy with the bike as it is in every respect other than that. And I can't think that I'm going to grow anymore by this time. So it is just something I'm going to have to do. In fact, one of the amusing things was when we actually got to where we were originally planned for a coffee shop, which is coming up in just a few minutes, I really just didn't want to get off the bike. It was just, can I really be bothered? It's not the words I was going to use, but I'll let you insert your own choice of language. And I thought, no, I just really can't be bothered. I felt that I would probably fall over rather than climb off, and I didn't really want to do that, particularly in a petrol station. And then when we found the cafe was closed, it would have been just really not worth the effort. So whether or not I'll have fitted a lowering link, you'll have to wait and see, but that's a decision that I had made at the end of that journey, that really perhaps it would be wiser to do it. If it's something I do decide to do, then we'll show you the results. Should prove interesting. But here we are, we've left Innismouthby now, and we're now in Powys. So when we said Powys or bust, no, we made it to Powys. We weren't bust, but we were a little disappointed to see that the cafe was closed. Still, never mind. We were going to enjoy some other great roads soon. Anyway, see you again soon. Bye.